Hello again, everyone. I hope you are doing great. In today's class, we're going to continue what we have left off. So, as you remember, we're going to talk about introduction specifically. So, what is an introduction? The introduction tells the reader what to expect. So you're introducing the topic, and of course, it has to tell the reader that what the topic is about and what he or she has to expect. Always consider the reader first. It's very important because sometimes I read some different kinds of introductions which seem to be written by robots. You're not a robot, and all the beauty of the language is the creativity and the humanity behind it. So do not spoil it, please. The next thing is about this. Helps the reader, so the introduction helps the reader to follow the rest of your essay. Always think of the reader again. So I'm just putting a lot of emphasis on this fact because it is all that you remember throughout the whole essay, that you are the creator and you are going to produce and create something which is really priceless because it is your own work. It is something that belongs to you, no one else. So do not spoil the creativity and innovation. And the important part here is that when I read your introduction, I should understand what exactly, the essay is going through the whole process. So by reading the whole introduction, the reader will have a very nice idea about the whole essay and its different parts. And that is very important, isn't it? If you think of the name introduction, you will be completely justified by what we are talking about. So it helps you create your thoughts in order. It's very important because as a writer, you've got a lot on your plate. You're busy doing a lot of things. But when you've got your introduction part prepared, you yourself know what to do next and what is another activity to be followed by. Not only your reader is going to have that kind of organization and idea about the whole process, but also you as the creator and the writer have got that kind of mentality that what exactly you need to do on the next step. Think of it as a mini plan that will help you write a better essay. Exactly, it is true. Because sometimes, as I told you, students, while writing, they just go off the topic. But if they take a look at the introduction as a mini plan that they have previously prepared, they wouldn't make that mistake because they say, oh, I have to just talk about this now. I shouldn't go for that topic because it is not our consideration. So it is very important to remember the fact that your introduction acts like a mini plan. So what is an introduction? What is an introduction not? It's very important to remember because sometimes I read some ideas or sentences that do not belong to introduction. So you should know about the things which have to be excluded from your introduction. The chance to show the examiner how amazing your language is. You've got a lot of other places and opportunities to show off your language ability and skills. So please be really clear while writing your introduction. And, it means that you shouldn't be using different kinds of complex structures or idiomatic language here because everything has to be really crystal clear so that, as I said, the reader would definitely understand what to expect. A chance to hook the reader. It is not a good idea to go for that because you do not need a hook. The examiners are paid and they have to read your work, whether they like it or not. So we usually use a hook in order to grab the attention of the reader and encourage them to continue reading. But the examiner has to do that because it's their job and task. So whether you've got a very nice essay or it is a very bad one or awful one, they have to continue reading. Of course, the reflection would be your score. If you are a good one, you will be given a high score. If you are the worst one, you will be given a very low mark. But what I'm saying is that you do not need a hook to excite the reader because they have to go for that. And we usually go for the hook for some academic, really academic articles. To use memorized sentences, it is something that you really have to be cautious of, because I see that a lot of students around the world are really willing to go for that kind of activity because they feel prepared. They feel that, okay, I've got a lot of prepared words and phrases, and regardless of the kind of topic, I can use them in order to impress the examiner. I'm so sorry to, give you that kind of bad news, but it is not true. And the examiner will understand it is not your own word or sentence or sentences within a moment. Just in a blink of an eye, they will understand and detect that it is not your language that has been used there, because you cannot, fake it throughout the whole essay. Maybe you can use some very fancy and beautiful, gorgeous structures in different parts of your essay, but the examiner will distinguish that the majority of sentences or the majority of ideas are at a very specific level, which is your level. So they will forget about those fancy or gorgeous ones that you thought would inspire the examiner. How to write an introduction. So let's get to the real work. A good introduction has a simple three-part structure. The first part that you should address is about the paraphrase of the question, or you have to go for the restatement of the question. The question says something, you just try to introduce that thing, that mentality, that meaning, but you would go for different words, different phrases, because you do not want to copy the exact words out of question, because that way you will be penalized. And the next thing is about your opinion. As far as you are writing an opinion essay, of course, your opinion has to be stated in introduction. Sometimes I see that some students are reluctant to do that. So they would just keep their opinion until conclusion, for example. That is wrong. If you take a look at the band descriptor, you will see that a person who can achieve a 7 in this regard has to state the opinion throughout the whole essay. So we can see the third stage is outlining your main ideas. Of course, it is not mandatory, but it is recommended to do that. If you can, outline your main ideas very briefly and shortly. So, of course, you cannot spend a lot of time doing that, and you do not have to do that at all. But if you can do it very shortly and briefly, it will bring you lots of advantages as well, because the examiner will understand from the beginning that what the exact main ideas are, and you yourself have that kind of idea in your mind. So whenever you want, you can just get back and check it again and again in order to see whether you are on the right spot or not. So we talked about paraphrasing. There are different ways with the help of which we can do paraphrase. So the first thing is about the definition of paraphrase. So paraphrasing is everything in IELTS. So you need to understand what paraphrasing is, because not only in your writing, but also in different parts of the test, like listening and reading. And of course, in your speaking, you need to know about it. For example, if I ask you, what do you do in your free time? And you say that I usually read books in my free time, you haven't, satisfied the requirement, because you have exactly used and utilized the phrase that your examiner had previously used. So it's a much better way to go for paraphrasing. For example, you can say in my spare time. So instead of repeating the exact phrase, I would go and select the other one, which has quite the similar meaning. So here we go with two ways in order to paraphrase. The first thing is about synonyms. So for example, you say that this word has got different synonyms, and you would choose the different ones. For example, choose, select, opt out, these have the same meanings. You can also change the structure of the sentence completely. So for example, you've got the noun in a sentence, and then you will change it into a verb. So the part of speech can make a difference in your sentence structure. And the next thing is about both ways. So sometimes students go for synonyms and of course the change in the structure, and that is quite okay and very beneficial. Be careful of synonyms because they must match and make sense. Sometimes students go for some synonyms that literally mean the same, but when it comes to the context and in reality, you cannot go for them and choose them interchangeably. For example, take a look at the word country. If you look it up, you will see that kingdom has been given as a synonym, but of course it is not a synonym. Or for example, a lot of other words that you have to be cautious of. Be careful that your new sentence is grammatically okay and makes sense. Sometimes I see that some candidates try to be so creative and innovative that the meaning is completely lost. You have to be sure that the newly designed and created sentence has got the same meaning, although the design and the style has changed. Take a look at this example. Many affluent nations have opened their doors to immigrants in recent years. So the paraphrase of one of my students would be like this. In recent years, immigrants go to affluent nations who open their doors. So, of course, it is not a good choice because you see that it is not that much natural. But a better choice would be this. In recent years, immigrants have been taken by many affluent nations. So you see that it's a much better choice and alternative. Synonyms and a structure change. Many affluent nations have opened their doors to immigrants in recent years. You can also say, in recent years, immigrants have been taken by numerous wealthy countries. So here you can see that not only did we go for synonyms, but we have also changed the structure of the sentence completely. So here you can see both methods applied and implemented. So here we go with your opinion, because as you remember, the topic is actually about your opinion. If you want to forget and ignore this part, your opinion, you have to neglect a great part of your score as well, because they are fundamentally related and overlapped. And that makes sense because the question is actually asking about your opinion, not other people's opinion. And it doesn't make a difference whether you would go for this essay or you would say that I personally, both of them are completely okay, because I've heard that some teachers or instructors recommend students not to use these kind of phrases, the personal ones, like from my point of view, in my opinion, and stuff like this. But they are completely okay, and I have double-checked them with different examiners. So there are many ways you can state your opinion, but get out of your own way. It means that do not overcomplicate things, because you do not need a list of 100 ways to say that. As far as you say, in my opinion, or I personally believe that, or I personally agree with this statement, you're good to go. Just keep your creativity and innovation and all knowledge for the upcoming parts. So there we go with your main ideas. As I told you previously, it is not mandatory to go for this part, but I would definitely suggest this part as well, because I believe that when you do that, you can somehow get a better picture ahead of you. So what exactly you're going to do and what exactly your main ideas are. And your examiner will see that kind of, coherent ideas and development that are very important and essential to a great and effective writing.